Here we have another clip from the House Judiciary Committee on the Twitter files. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz wants to talk about professional ethics with Matt Taibbi. Debbie Wasserman Schultz wants to talk about ethics. Just a brief reminder of her own unethical behavior, holding a key position in the rigging of an American election. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is so unethical, she was forced to resign from her position as the chair of the DNC due to the fact she, along with many others, were caught rigging the 2016 Democratic primary to ensure a Hillary Clinton victory. She should be a convicted felon breaking rocks in the hot sun, not an empowered elected official smearing journalists and covering up the crimes of the federal government. Yet here we are in 2023, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz is emboldened and empowered, and doing her job to muddy the waters. The Twitter files reveal the authoritarian nature of our government and its actions against private citizens of all political backgrounds. Debbie Wasserman Schultz would have you believe that this is a right-wing conspiracy theory, and journalists like Matt Taibbi are right-wing grifters looking for MAGA money. Here, she will attempt to smear a journalist exposing federal crimes, as well as claim social media companies are dangerous for allowing free speech on their platforms.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Taibbi, I want to ask about journalistic ethics and information sources. The Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics asserts that journalists should avoid political activities that can compromise integrity or credibility. Being a Republican witness today certainly casts a cloud over your objectivity. But a deeper concern that I have relates to the ethics of how journalists receive and present certain information. Journalists should avoid accepting spoon-fed, cherry-picked information if it's likely to be slanted, incomplete, or designed to reach a foregone, easily disputed, or invalid conclusion. Would you agree with that?
I think it depends.
Really? You wouldn't agree that a journalist should avoid spoon-fed, cherry-picked information if it's likely to be slanted, incomplete, or designed to reach a foregone, easily disputed, or invalid conclusion?
Congresswoman, I've done probably a dozen stories involving whistleblowers. Every reported story that I've ever done across 3 decades involves sources who have motives. Every time you do a story, you're making a balancing test between the public interest.
Reclaiming my time. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So the ever-ethical Debbie Wasserman Schultz is firstly accusing Matt Taibbi of being, quote, a Republican witness. So if there is a Republican at the head of a subcommittee and they call you as a witness, you are now a Republican partisan, according to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Even if your name is Matt Taibbi, even if you've been obviously leaning left your entire professional career, right off the bat, accusing him of being a Republican prop witness puppet. Notice how there is a very concentrated effort to paint this in a partisan light and smear these people exposing authoritarianism in our government as right-wing grifters, right-wing conspiracy theorists. She then pulls out a random quote from Matt Taibbi when he was on the Joe Rogan Experience, and the quote is actually attributed to Seymour Hersh in his book. And it's talking about how, as a journalist, he felt awkward for the first time being handed information from the CIA rather than digging it up himself. And she's going to conflate that and then accuse Taibbi of going against his own moral and ethical code because now he is working for Elon Musk and being spoon-fed information from Elon Musk to create some kind of narrative, some right-wing narrative. When you work with a whistleblower, someone disseminating information that someone else was trying to keep private, the vast majority of the time, that whistleblower who is exposing information has a bone to pick, has an axe to grind. They are not objective. People have opinions. People have biases, okay? So he's talking about how every news story ever, with any source ever, you must weigh that and try to do your best to write a story and convey the information people need. So, Earth to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, everyone on the world has a bias because they all have opinions, okay? In the case of the Twitter files specifically, the information we are being shown is exposing how the federal government was completely disregarding the First Amendment and breaking the Constitution. Debbie Wasserman Schultz's job is to muddy the waters and to control the narrative. And the way they're going to do that is, don't believe your lying eyes. This is all a conspiracy theory. This is all right-wing conspiracy theory. Alex Jones, Elon Musk, Matt Taibbi's a right-winger. They're all grifting. This is about money. This is about people making money off of dumb Americans who don't know anything. I'm Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I'm the ethical person here. All I did was rig a primary election and deny American people democracy, okay? That's ethics.
I ask you this because before you became Elon Musk's hand-picked journalist, and pardon the oxymoron, you stated this on Joe Rogan's podcast about being spoon-fed information, and I quote, "I think that's true of any kind of journalism," and you'll see it behind me here. "I think that's true of any kind of journalism. Once you start getting handed things, then you've lost. They have you at that point, and you got to get out of that habit. You just can't cross that line." Do you still believe what you told Mr. Rogan? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Good. Now, you crossed that line with the Twitter files.
No.
Elon Musk, it's my time. Please do not interrupt me. Elon Musk spoon-fed you his cherry-picked information, which you must have suspected promotes a slanted viewpoint, or at the very least generates another right-wing conspiracy theory. You violated your own standard, and you appear to have benefited from it. Before the release of the emails in August of last year, you had 661,000 Twitter followers. After the Twitter files, your followers doubled, and now it's 3 times what it was last August. I imagine your Substack readership, which is a subscription, increased significantly because of the work that you did for Elon Musk. Now, I'm not asking you to put a dollar figure on it, but it's quite obvious that you've profited from the Twitter files. You hit the jackpot on that Vegas slot machine to which you referred. That's true, isn't it?
I've also reinvested.
You've made some. No. Is it true that you have profited since you were the recipient of the Twitter files? You've made money. Yes or no?
I think it's probably a wash, honestly.
No, you have made money that you did not have before, correct?
But I've also spent money that I didn't have before. I just hired a whole group of people to investigate.
Patently obvious answer, reclaiming my time. Attention is a powerful drug. Eyeballs, money, prominence, attention, all of it points to problems with accuracy and credibility.
So now dear old Debbie is bringing up the fact that since Matt Taibbi has done this very important work and exposed the federal government and got this massive scoop and published this giant bombshell reporting, that his Twitter followers have gone up. Oh my God, the horror. And that his Substack subscriptions have gone up, and that he has quite possibly made money and profited off of his work. Could you imagine that? Someone making money for the work they do in the United States of America. Oh my gosh. So are journalists supposed to just do it for free? Are they supposed to just live in poverty to tell stories? I don't understand. I don't understand the point she's making. I mean, I do. She's trying to say he's a grifter and that he's doing it for attention and that he's doing it for money. Of course, his followers are going to go up. Of course, he's going to have a bigger impact on the internet. He's doing good work in exposing a bombshell. He's exposing how the United States government is disregarding the First Amendment. I would hope hundreds of thousands of people would be interested in learning about that.
And the larger point, which is social media companies are not biased against conservatives, and if anything, they ignored their own policies by allowing Trump and other MAGA extremists to post incessant lies, endangering public safety and even our democracy. Hypocrisy is the hangover of an addiction to attention. Now, I want to point out another alleged finding from the Twitter files. Mr. Schellenberger, you've referenced several times this $3.4 million that the FBI paid to Twitter in 2020 that was referenced in General Counsel Jim Baker's email. I first want to confirm that nowhere in the email does Baker say that the money was paid to censor information, take down posts, suspend accounts, or do anything relating to content moderation. Is that correct?
It is.
Thank you. But honest reporting would have explained that the $3.4 million was paid to release information, not censor it. One of my colleagues on this panel repeated your distortions and told Americans this reimbursement was used to, quote, censor certain stories. That's a flat-out lie. Mr. Schellenberger, are you aware of Section 2706 under the Stored Communications Act? It says when social media companies comply with subpoenas, warrants, or court orders, it costs them money, so they get reimbursed. The FBI makes these requests and reimbursements to discover evidence and run relevant to a criminal investigation. Let me repeat that. The FBI makes these requests to help catch the bad guys. That helps keep child predators off social media sites. It helps keep violent criminals off our streets. I support the FBI and our law enforcement agencies. It would be nice if our Republican colleagues did the same and not fabricate explanations for payments that are defined for clear purposes in federal law. My time is just about wrapped up.
May I respond?
The truth is that social media companies are unregulated monoliths. They pose danger to individuals. They allow posts that bring harm, and that's the bottom line. The other side will not tell you. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman had no time to yield back, but I will let the gentleman, Mr. Schellenberger, respond. And I would also point out that I did not say what the
Mr.
FBI
Chairman,
paid Twitter for. All I said was they paid Twitter $3.4 million.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. I didn't ask Mr. Schellenberger a question.
Yeah, but the witness wants to respond, and the witness have been invited our guests, and frankly, they've been attacked by the federal
Well, please
government.
do that.
I'm going to let Mr. Schellenberger answer that before recognizing Mr. Bishop.
So are you going to do that as we move down the line of questioners?
The gentleman has not been recognized. You had your 5 minutes, and frankly, I think that's at the discretion of the chair. Mr. Schellenberger, you can respond briefly.
I'll be brief, which is that my understanding from those files is that Twitter had decided not to take that money until recently. So if you read that email, what Stasha, I believe, the person that sent it, is saying is that they started taking money after previously not taking it. And I believe that the reason that they had not taken it earlier was because they did not want that financial conflict clouding their relationship.
Mr. Chairman, the money is payment under federal law so that they can
The gentleman from
costs
North Carolina, Mr. Bishop, is recognized for 5
The Twitter files expose how the United States government is authoritarian and how it is censoring private citizens, media organizations, etc., in order to preserve their narrative of events. On top of that, most of the people who work in big tech and a lot of the people who work in the intelligence community lean Democrat. Now, I'm a leftist. I'm not a right-winger. I'm not a Republican. I'm a leftist. But it's patently obvious that the people who worked at Twitter and a lot of the people who work in the federal government lean Democrat. So they also had a personal bias. And the Twitter files show extensive evidence of those personal biases against conservatives, where you see a lot of censoring for some really stupid stuff. But it also exposed the authoritarian nature of the United States government, the FBI, and all these other organizations that were filtering their requests through the FBI to Twitter to make censorship and shadow ban, etc., etc., etc. It also exposes on a big level of how the government, the powers that be, the people making money off of our backs, are willing to destroy the Constitution and shit all over the rule of law in order to protect their narrative, to protect their profits, to protect their power. So Debbie Wasserman Schultz is now saying that there clearly was no bias against conservatives, and in fact they let conservatives say mean and scary and violent things on their platform, and that proves that Twitter and all of this was fake, their Twitter files are fake, and on top of that, we need to regulate these social media companies, and we need to stop free speech, and we need to censor. So in one sentence, she's going to say how they weren't censoring conservatives, blah, 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 but what they were saying is dangerous, and actually we do need to censor conservatives. You can't make this shit up. And the scary part is, I'll go on the internet and I look at supposed left-wing media coverage of Debbie Wasserman Schultz and these supposed left-wing progressive medias, people who claim to be a leftist, as I am a leftist, are saying things like, Debbie Wasserman Schultz bodied Matt Taibbi. Matt Taibbi's getting exposed by Debbie Wasserman Schultz. That's sad. That's pathetic. This is a horrible performance by one of the most unethical people in our entire government, who's falling on her face trying to accuse one of the most accomplished investigative journalists of being a grifter. And you have left-wing sites who aren't mainstream media, I guess who are MSNBC wannabes at this point, they're going to side with Debbie Wasserman Schultz over freedom of speech. They're going to side with this monster who they know rigged the election in 2016, because a lot of them made videos about it back in the day. They're going to take her side when she's obviously lying and painting someone doing important investigative journalistic work as a grifter looking for attention. I don't know which one of her staffers wrote this line, but it's so bad and she thinks it's so clever, and I really hate people who use alliteration to make themselves seem like they're a great writer. She says, hypocrisy is the hangover of the addiction to attention. Sounds like something Jordan Peterson would say, to be honest. Hypocrisy is the hangover of the addiction to attention, Matt Taibbi. And you're addicted to attention. And that's why you're so hypocritical. Jesus Christ. All the power to Matt Taibbi, I would not have been able to sit there. I would have been like, listen, you fucking wet poodle looking bitch, can you shut the fuck up about ethics? Didn't you rig an election? Get the fuck out of my face. Jesus Christ, how do you deal with this wet poodle?
What's the matter? The CIA got you pushing too many pencils? Huh?